Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Everybody.
Hello.
Oh no.
Hello.
Okay, there you go.
Hello.
No. You guys probably
wrong.
just heard an echo of hellos from us because I had the Twitch stream unmuted.
Oh, I've done that many a time. Don't worry. You are not alone.
Hello, and then you said hello, and then Moika said hello, and then it just went back in a chorus, and then we all continued to say hello.
Perfect.
Great.
Good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to MangaPod. I'm Erin.
I'm Dodger.
And I'm Moika.
And we are a podcast in which we all get together after we read all or part of a manga, and then we discuss those friendship, love, and lots of spoilers. We also have a fourth host, Lou. He is not here this week, but if you want to go ahead and send him all sorts of love, his Twitter handle is Lou Talks Anime. So you should go and check him out. Send him hearts and all sorts of stuff from the MangaPod family. If you've never joined, oh wait, just kidding. Hold on, I jumped so far ahead. Really quick, we are reading My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, as well as the sequel, My Solo Exchange Diary. We read the whole thing of both. They're very short, so it's 2 volumes, very quick. It's like 6 or 7 chapters each one. And a really quick announcement. We, if you didn't hear, are on Spotify and iTunes now. Just MangaPod Book Club on there. We are currently the #1 manga podcast on Spotify, which is really cool.
Jazz hands.
Which is super dope. So if you guys do want to go ahead and listen to that, we only have 3 episodes up right now, but we're going to continue adding current episodes. And once we get in a little bit, we're going to start adding classic episodes too. So episodes from the last few years, like ways away.
The real good uns.
Real good uns. When we were babies. If you guys, there's one that you would specifically like to see, there is a recommendation thread on our subreddit, which is MangaPod. There's also a recommendation thread for like future manga that we read or manhwa or whatever, so you can also go there. So if you've never joined us for a MangaPod before, what we like to do is give you a short spoiler-free description, aka summary, and then we'll give you our spoiler-free recommendations, whether we think you should spend time going to read this manga or not. That way, if it sounds like something you're interested in, you can take your leave before we get to spoiler section, go and read it, and then come back and watch the VOD on YouTube, which is on Happily Erin, or you can listen to it on Spotify, all sorts of that fun little things after you read it. We will give a countdown right before we go into spoiler section, so that way you have a time to move your goose outie.
Move your goose. It's a normal thing to say.
So I've got a hair stuck somewhere in it. Okay, got it.
You okay?
This one's all about self-love, so you get that strand of hair.
Yeah, you get that hair out of your face, girl.
Hey, guys.
You live your best life.
Thank you. I like that I get permission to do such things. So is there anything else I need to say before I read the description?
I don't think so. I think you covered it all.
I think you covered it.
All? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and read. I'll read the description for Lesbian Experience first and then do Solo Exchange Diary. So the heart-rendering.
I'm just going to get comfy.
I'm going to skip that part. My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness is an honest and heartfelt look at one young woman's exploration of her sexuality, mental well-being, and growing up in our modern age. Oh, shit. I'm putting R's where they do not belong. Told using expressive artwork that invokes both laughter and tears. This moving and highly entertaining single volume depicts not only the artist's
burgeoning? Is it burgeoning?
I think so. Sexuality, but many other personal aspects of her life that will resonate with readers. Jesus fucking Christ. It took me Okay, this is the description from My Soul Exchange Diary Volume 1. This sequel to the viral sensation My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness was also named one of Amazon's best graphic novels for 2018. Struggling with the idea of living alone and adjusting to the effects of her previous book's success, this follow-up to the award-winning autobiography comic continues the author's quest for self-acceptance and love. I 97% nailed that one.
Hell yeah. You crushed
You got it. Proud of you.
Thanks. Everyone in chat is like, words are hard.
Words are hard.
They are diff. Who would anyone like to go first for what were you gonna say? What's up? What's up?
I wasn't sure if I should wait until after we've given our recommendations or not, but there are, like, just so everybody's aware who's watching, there are lewd elements to this manga, but it is not the focus at all. Mm-mm. It is much more about, like, the mangaka learning about themselves as a person. So I would say it's more like emotionally and mentally taxing to read than it is like, ooh,
yeah,
like,
ooh,
at all.
Bits.
Oh my goodness, is that a titty?
Look at the nippy nips.
Yeah, so just FYI for anybody who's like, oh my goodness, what a lewd read.
Yeah. Not
nearly as lewd as other stuff we've read.
No way near. Agree. Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. So recommendations.
Since I was already talking, I'm willing to go first. Both of these really surprised me. I actually really, really loved them because they're so, like, since they are autobiographical, it's a very, very interesting read because there are moments where you're so frustrated with her and there's moments when you're so frustrated with her family. And, like, it also, it reminded me so much of the conversation around vlogging, right? Where people who are vlogging are like, I'm not sure how much I should say in these videos, but the videos are about my life. That element is so much a part of this as well, where it's like her trying to gauge, like, how much she should put in a comic that is about her life. But if she leaves stuff out, then it leaves out context, right? So I thought that it was really, really interesting. It went in directions I was not expecting at all. And I thought that the way that she, like, put imagery inside of the manga was really well done. There were moments where she was trying to describe how her brain was working that I thought were really interesting, like, as part of a comic splash. So yeah, I actually really liked it.
Micah, would you like to go next?
I really liked it, and it got me thinking about my experiences in life. And so I would definitely recommend. Wait, we're doing recommendations, right?
Yes.
Spoiler-free recommendations.
Spoiler-free.
Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Yeah, I'd say it's a good read for guys as well, just for the, like, a different perspective. And I mean, again, it's all about, like, self-growth and learning about yourself. So even though you might be like, I'm not into girls or I'm not a lesbian or whatever, you can still look at your experiences and be like, like, I can kind of understand that, and maybe it'll give you perspective on something you didn't understand from your experiences back then, and so on. So I definitely recommend it. I feel like people's sexuality is definitely not talked about, even though we have progressed a lot in recent times. So I always think thinking about your experiences is good, and this definitely got me thinking while learning about this girl's, like, experience with her own sexuality.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I really, really loved this manga and connected to it a lot. And as somebody, like, there's so many manhwa, webcomics, all of that deal with mental illness, but I feel like I haven't seen it so directly and openly discussed and pointedly discussed. It's not just like analogy or anything. She's very obviously touching on all these points and symptoms and realities that she's going through. And as somebody who has bipolar mental illness, like reading it so succinct and making it the way she writes it and describes it without all of these fancy words is very I was very connected with it. And like you guys said, you don't have to be like exactly her and have all of her exact circumstances to relate to what's going on. It's so I really loved it. I think it's something that helps you open your mind and like makes you think, but not in necessarily a like dark twist, like triggering way. Like it's a very I don't want to say lighthearted because it's not, but
it's accessible.
Like, accessible. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I really recommend it. I really enjoyed it the whole thing through. And it's really short, like we said. It's really short. So yeah, I recommend it as well.
Sick.
Cool.
We all recommend it, y'all.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's jump to spoiler section. You guys, once again, spoiler section is where we're going to talk about the entirety of both volumes. If you do not want to be spoiled for what we're going to be talking about, now is the time to go ahead and take your leave, and then you can come back and listen to it later. So let's go ahead. Countdown.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Boop. Loneliness.
Loneliness is God. I don't like that.
I don't either. Negative.
I don't like that. I reject
that. That back. We're gonna edit that part out later.
Yeah,
that's wrong. No,
we'll get Lou to say something, even though he wasn't here. We'll just throw it in there.
Put it in there. He's always on top of that one.
Oh goodness. All right, guys, what were you expecting? What did you think this manga was going to be like?
I was expecting it to be a lesbian experience with loneliness.
Sure.
But I did not expect it to be as real as it was. Did not expect it to be as much I expected it to be much more a coming out, finding yourself within like being queer. That's what I was expecting. I didn't expect that to be a side along that went along with her previous experiences as well, with like mental illness and her parents. So I wasn't expecting it to be as much about mental illness, but also like you were saying before about what it means to put yourself and your life out there for other people to read and grasp onto.
Because this was a webcomic?
Yeah, it was on Pixab, I think.
Right. So it was interesting to have chapters go out, and then the next chapter she would reference the chapter she had written and like how people had responded to it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, it literally reminds me of the people that would vlog every day, you know? And especially in the scenarios where like when she started having a girl take interest in her, and then like writing in the chapter that she wasn't actually interested in the girl, and then the next chapter talking about the girl texting her and being like, you really hurt my feeling, right? Like that sort of stuff. I was like, this is so wild because it is so real. It is a diary. It reads exactly like a diary. Yeah, I didn't expect, I don't know why, because having it be a reference to real situations and real people, it would feel more raw. But like the way that she depicts her family is so heart-wrenching, right? Because she acknowledges that there are things that she loves, like that she's really clingy with her mom, but at the same time that her parents were abusive in different ways. It's, oh God, like it really messed me up. Like this whole thing, I did not expect to number one, fly through it, and number two, to just be like so invested in her understanding her relationships better, specifically with her parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was a rant. I'm sorry.
No,
Moeka, how'd you feel?
Okay.
I was agreeing so much with you, so I'm like holding on to that move after. I wasn't just like,
Whatever.
Yeah,
Dodger. Okay, Dodger.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be, because I knew it was like there were some like biographical elements, and so I don't know. I guess I didn't expect it to be so raw and just so normal. I was expecting there to be more like made up parts here and there to try and hide some of the more like private details. And so it was I don't know, it was weird because she even talked about how there's someone in her reviews for the comic that was like, "Oh, this is like, I don't know, it's kind of disappointing." But I don't want to say that it's disappointing. I don't know. I don't know why in my brain I was just like, "Oh, she's going to add like fake stuff to like try and make it seem more exciting," which she definitely did not need to, cuz I was so invested.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it was so weird just getting to, it's like you said, it was so weird getting to see a vlog version that was drawn, I guess, essentially, for this.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna also reading a story that is so pro escort.
Yes.
Because in Japan, like it's not illegal and it's not an issue. So to just like really openly be like, yeah, I hired a lady to have sex with me a couple of times.
Yes.
It's like, it's to be talking about that so straightforward as well is interesting.
And like such a positive. It's not like negative at all. I didn't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, both of the girls that she met with, I think she depicted in a very like sweet, warm way, you know, and that I thought it was really interesting how open she was about how nervous she is. Like, I really want to touch this person, but I'm terrified to touch this person, even though I paid this person to like touch me and let me touch them. Like, I still don't feel like I'm allowed to. Yeah, I think both of the girls she depicted in a way where you were like, oh, they seemed really sweet.
Yeah.
Like I'm really glad that her first lesbian experiences were with such nice ladies.
Yes. And
that's how I wound up feeling.
I was totally the same. I was like, oh, thank goodness it wasn't a horrible experience. And she also, I thought, did a really good job of describing her anxiety throughout the whole thing. Because she had built it up so much in her head, which is totally normal. And then that doesn't just go away like immediately just because you're suddenly in that circumstance that you've been thinking about and wondering about. Just because you get into that and you've like had all this control over it, like you set the time, you picked the girl, like you picked where, just because you have that doesn't necessarily mean the anxiety you have from building up in your head is just going to be like, no more. It's all gone.
Right.
And so I was expecting with the first one and the first one more, but also the second one where she would just be like, okay, she's getting into it. Like she enjoys it. Like all these questions she has are just evening out. Like she's getting all the answers. And when that didn't happen, there was a moment where I was like, oh man, I'm so kind of frustrated. And then I think, well, no, duh. Like that's how it works.
That's not how it works.
Yeah. And so that goes back to the thing of it's so real and so raw. And it's not just, I'm painting this pretty picture to tell you this story. It's like, no, this is what I'm going through, the experiences. So I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah.
There's just so much to like unpack. The fact
I know.
that we have like only 2 volumes, there's still so much to go and through. Something I wanted to point out is that even though, since it is a diary, specifically the second one, there is so much exposition. There's so many text boxes, but I wasn't bothered by that at all because I felt like it went so quick because it was just like her voice is just so succinct. She knows it. She isn't trying to fluff it, or like I said earlier, she's not trying to make it poetic at all. And so that I think made it a little quicker to read just because you're so engaged with who she is and how she is telling the story.
And it does feel very conversational. Like, even if she's trying to explain something to you as the reader, it's very, I was reading a book or somebody once told me this thing, like, and they described it like this. And then it's a lot of visuals along with text. And I think that made it go really fast, and it was really ingestible. Like we were talking about earlier. It's just a very accessible look at someone who has just like mentally dealt with a lot and is trying to let themselves be loved and love themselves and understand themselves better. The whole section in Solo Exchange Diary where it was like she's desperate to move out, finally has an apartment and doesn't move out. And then like just stays with her parents for a while, even though her parents are making her miserable. And then like having like a real come to Jesus moment with herself, right? Of like, I need to leave. You know, like, it is for the best that I get out of this situation because I'm making excuses to stay here, even though it's like holding me back. And I think I loved that part of Solo Exchange Diary because even in My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, it was mentioned throughout, like her saying, oh, I want to move out and get my own place. And her parents being like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to leave. Why would you leave? You can't afford to leave. Right? Like coming up, even though they constantly belittle her, coming up with all of these reasons that she can't leave and be on her own and why she's like worthless on her own. And like it was just so wild to have snippets of that throughout and then get to the point where it was, I don't want to leave because of X, Y, and Z, but I have to. I have to get out. Right. And I was like, man, I didn't realize that we were kind of going on a snapshot journey there with that specific storyline, you know?
Yeah, I was the same where I didn't realize like, oh, okay, it's building up to the point where she's going to be like, okay, this is what's most important for my health. I didn't realize. And so it set the stage to that part so subtly throughout both volumes so that when it did happen, it was like, oh, I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy
I know. I was so happy. And I think the way that she put it too made it obvious how hard it was for her. Like the way I think her exact words, at least in the translation, were like, I have to abandon my mom. And I thought that was such a good way to put it because it gave us a look at how she viewed it, right? It wasn't just, I need to get out and like be on my own. Like she believed that staying would help her mom, but acknowledged that leaving, even though it might make things harder for her mom, leaving was the only way she was ever going to be happy.
Yeah.
And like how difficult that is, you know? Oh, man.
It's like, so this is like a twofold thought. So that like just being able to relate so much to things like that, where I'm at the point like, wait, did she live my life? Like, I'm so confused. Is this me? And so that part was just so relatable. And then growing up, it's like us as kids, it's like our parents are supposed to be the like greatest people. Like they take care of us. They're the caregivers. We're supposed to always listen to
Be able
them,
to rely on them and listen
be able
to them.
rely on them. They don't do wrong. Like as the kids are doing wrong because the parents are teaching the kids and they're telling the kids like, this is what you're doing wrong. This is how I'm raising you. And then as you grow up, you're just like, you get to a certain time as you grow up where you're like, oh, my parents aren't perfect. Like they aren't, they do make mistakes, and they're looking back on it where you're just like, it's a weird feeling with how she said, I have to abandon my mom. It's like, no, I'm supposed to make things easier and take care of my mom. At least for me, this is like going off my experiences too, where it's like, no, my mom didn't do anything wrong. Like she wasn't the abusive one in the family. Like that's not. And then once you hit that, I had that like same epiphany that she did where it's like, oh wait, like I can't be free. Like I can't be grown up. I can't be myself if I'm constantly like being held back by this weight of trying to take care of somebody else who should have been taking care of me. And so it's just like, yeah, I was just sitting there like, oh my God, crying. Such a real, so many parts where I was just like tearing up, like, I think that's the noise I made.
And following it up with her first book getting published and her leaving it for her parents to read.
Yes.
Oh my God. And the both of them being like so weird about, and I thought another like really poignant moment was her saying to herself, like, they're so upset about the lesbian stuff when that's not the point of the book.
Yes.
Right? Like, it's like they didn't even read the parts where I was talking about how miserable I was and how depressed I was and my anxiety and my loneliness. Like, they didn't even see that, right? They just knew that their daughter is a lesbian and hired a prostitute. Like, that's the only thing that they paid attention to, and everything else was just static, right? And I was like, oh my God, how frustrating would that be? Like, obviously, leaving that book there for them to read was like, this is the easiest way for me to tell you how I've been feeling all this time.
Yeah.
And they didn't even get it. Like how frustrating that would be in her position. Oh my God.
Yeah, that, because you're just like, that is her 100% fully putting herself as far out there as you possibly can. And that is the same thing where you're like, all right, I don't know how to talk, but I'm so terrified of putting this out there because of what these important people to me might think or what they're going to find out. And then also what they're going to realize I feel about them, like how I think about them. When you're putting something so raw out there, you have to also like be like, this is my perspective. Like, I do need you to acknowledge that. And then for them to just be like, well, we don't want to talk about this stuff, communicate about this stuff that you went through from your perspective. So we're just going to focus on the lesbian part of this. Like,
right.
The smallest, like, not small, but like the thing. Wow, I don't know what I'm saying. The thing.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Moeka, I feel like we've been trampling over you. I'm sorry. How are you feeling?
It's okay. No,
what would you like to talk about?
Trying to like think about what I want to say, because I think for me I think this part of the manga definitely hit me the hardest because I mean, it's only been recently where I was in her position where I just felt like I can't, like, I feel trapped and I don't know how to like get out of the situation. And just thinking about it like makes me tear up because I like completely understood how she felt. And so I think that was like the hardest part, is learning how to get out of that situation. And at the same time, I mean, she talks about it later on, is how it's just, if you don't know how to communicate that well enough, it's so difficult to get your feelings to be understood, which is, when you think about it in like their society, it's like so frowned upon to have like a lesbian or gay daughter, because in their society it's, oh, you failed your child, you must have not cooked her enough meals or done enough
Right.
for her. And so to like see someone like a different country having the same experience, maybe not the same exact like issues, but just seeing her like go through this was so definitely frustrating, because part of me like now understood like, oh, it's like, yes, your parents definitely suck because they themselves are also not communicating like how they feel, and so it's just so frustrating to like secondhand see like, yes, like your feelings are completely valid, but you're not explaining yourself to them like in a like concise way from their perspective, and it's like the same from the other side. And so
Right.
it's just, oh, it's just so frustrating. And so for me, this part definitely hit me the hardest, because it's so hard getting out of that situation, especially when like from their parents' sides, it's like, yes, you cannot, if you move out, like you like don't have a full-time job, which over there, that's like such a huge part about like growing up is, okay, you have a full-time job, you can support yourself, and then like when we get old, we'll move in with you, whatever, like you can
Right.
support us and yourself. And so just her like going through this and me having gone through that experience kind of as well is just, oh, it's so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It was so hard getting through that part for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think one of the reasons that it hits so hard is because it is like her life, right? It's not somebody who's trying to depict this situation from fiction. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
her exact life. So I think there are moments that just feel so like, God, that's too real, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is hard for those of you in chat who are saying like, man, this sounds like it's a rough read. Um, she does make this manga in a way where it goes quickly and it is accessible and it is cute and fun sometimes. But there are definitely moments in it, depending on you and your situation as well, I'm sure. Like it can be more or less rough, but there are 100% scenarios in her manga where you're just like, I just want to help you so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's I really want to help you see what you're doing, or it's I really want to help you see what other people are doing.
Mm-hmm. I think one of
It's really good.
I mean, there was definitely a few parts that I was just like, oh, I connect with. I think one of the biggest parts was near the beginning when she was like talking about having mental illness as she was growing up and figuring things out and how to be with that. And she very early on at the very beginning is when she really talked about that. Which made me be like, okay, she's not going to hold back. Like, she's very much going in because she talked about having an eating disorder and depression and how she self-harmed.
Yeah.
And so there was
Oh, the whole cutting section was really interesting to me.
and like where she's talking about, and I totally relate to this because I still struggle with it, where it's like your mind is hurting so much. Your mind is just like in so much pain. And I actually tell Kaylee that too. If I'm going through like an episode, I'll be like, mommy's brain, like mommy's mind is hurting really bad right now. And so you're doing that, but then when you're just like going through that, you can't, there's no visible wound. Like you're just like, there's nothing you can see. And so then the self-harm part of it is like there's a visible piece that you can see. Or if you're like not eating or doing something like that that's associated with it, where you just have to look and be like, I need a visual because it's easy. I think she was like, it's easy to grasp onto, I think is what she said. And so I was like, it's just so raw. I know I've used that word a lot, but it's such a, she's not holding back. And I think that is such an important thing to bring up because that's a shame part of it. You're like, all right, that's a symptom that nobody wants to talk about because it's like, oh, that's shame is like associated exactly with that. And so the fact that she brought it up how she did and was so matter of fact about it, that's one of the things of with mental illness being like that and talking about it from your own experience is such an important thing to do. And so I think having that there, I was like, okay, I'm in, like, connecting with you already. And then that also led into the I don't have a right to be happy, like that part of it, where it's like, all right, you're in that mind and you're going through all of this and like you've messed up, or your brain is just telling you you don't have a right to be happy because you're feeling all this negative stuff. And so then when you do start to feel happy, it's like, all right, what's going on and what's going to go wrong? Because why am I feeling happy? Like, instead of enjoying the happy moment, you're like, this is going to lead up to something bad. And like having bipolar and like when you get manic, there's times where you're like, oh, cool, I feel like so great. And then you're just like, oh shit, when is it going to drop? Like, when is the negative going to happen?
But this is going to end soon.
Yeah. And so you're just so suspicious when things are going right. Specifically, like for me, like when my bipolar is acting up, like if I'm in the mania, like I'm pretty stable at points where I'm like, I'm not thinking about when the good is going to end. I'm just like present in the moment. But there are definitely when I'm like in the mania section of stuff, just being like, okay, when is this going to get all fucked up? Like that idea of not knowing what it's going to be. So you're just really suspicious.
I think another section of it that was interesting, that I feel like I've talked with so many people who have experienced this kind of a thing, where like the way that she was raised, she felt like she wasn't allowed to ever really think about sex or like consider herself a sexual person. And then like kind of hoped that she would hire this escort and sort of like get it out of her system, right? And just be like, I'm just going to have this one sexual experience and then I'm not going to think about it or do anything about it ever again. And like, I'll be fine. It's like, that's not healthy and that's not how it works, right? Like if you do have sexual feelings in one way or another, to just be like, all right, I'm going to do this one thing and then I'm just going to clamp down on it for the rest of my life, is like, that's not healthy, right? So to have her get to the point where she was willing to admit to herself, like, yes, I'm attracted to women. Yes, I want to have sex with a woman. But then to have there still be a wall there of like, but I'm not allowed to like find a person to fall in love with. And I'm not going to ever find that. I'm never going to be happy that way. I'm just going to have this one experience and then that's going to be it. And I'll just, hold on to that for the rest of my life. I think that was so interesting because it did remind me of so many conversations I've had with other people. And to have it lead up to, of course, the scenario of hiring an escort and being like, I'm too scared to touch her.
Yeah.
was so good, right? Because she then goes on to talk about, how a sexual experience felt so scary and like amorphous. And now that she's had one, even though she didn't do much of anything, now that she's had one, she's like, oh, it's not actually that scary. Like, it is scary, but it's not. It makes sense now. It's not like my brain just has like black fuzz when I like try and imagine what it's like,
Yeah.
So I thought all the way that the manga progresses and the way that you see her work through things, I think is really interesting. Especially if you read both. Like, I think reading Lesbian Experience with Loneliness and just stopping there, you're missing out on how her life progressed from that point in My Solo Exchange Diary, because they really do just go one right after the other. So yeah,
there's just so much to talk about.
There's so much.
What did you guys think about the part where she was talking about her being a lesbian connected to her mom, and that she was talking about that came out weird. Let me finish.
I know exactly what you mean, though. I know which part you mean. Yeah,
where she's like, "Oh, maybe I just want Oh, it's the picture for Lou. Okay, so it's related to that. Where she's like, oh, maybe I'm not a lesbian. I just want an older woman to hold me and show me this affection because I'm so connected to my mom in this way that maybe that's what I'm yearning for. Like, I just want that now.
And she's really touch starved. Like, she's desperate. That's like another theme through the whole thing is she's desperate to just be hugged. She like really wants to be hugged by somebody. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, no, that was it.
Oh,
what were you guys what were you guys' feelings on that whole thing? Moeka, did you have any thoughts?
It definitely made me think because from my experience, I like going through the thought process of, oh, maybe because when I was younger, I kind of had the same thing where I was like, oh, maybe it's not girls. It's just like I just want like somebody like a older lady to hold me, like she said. And so it was just like, it was so weird being like, oh, I know this. I know this. I had this.
It's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
And it made me, I laughed because I was just like, that's not gonna fix it. That's like, it was just so, I don't know. It was so surreal for me.
Mm-hmm.
And
to
so
like read something where somebody's going through the exact same thought process.
Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know. It was just so funny to me. But it definitely was just like, oh, you sweet girl, like that's not how you're gonna fix this.
Because she says that she was doing some reading, right? And the reading was saying that sometimes girls will like get really weirded out because they either find their mother attractive or like there's aspects of their mom that they're drawn to and then they feel like really gross about it. And that's when she was like, oh, well, maybe it's not my mom. I mean, I have looked at my mom and like thought that way, but it's not my mom. I just want like an older woman to like hold me. And then it turned into, well, maybe I would do more with an older woman. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think like it also goes back to the whole sex isn't talked about. Like sex is a thing where it's just you kind of know it exists, but you don't know what all goes into it. So there's like no communication or being talked to you about it very openly. Yeah. So then you go and you research and you're like, oh, this is why. This makes sense because you don't quite understand. Sometimes it's just not innate. You're not like, oh, I understand everything about my sexuality immediately. I turned 13 and I know all parts of what I want, who I want. And that's just not the case. And so when you have when you're growing up, you just don't realize what's out there, what possibilities you could be feeling, or like that it doesn't necessarily have an explanation. You just feel how you feel. But I think human nature is like, if they don't understand something, you're like, I need to search something out, a reason about why I am this way. And when you're growing up in an environment that doesn't talk about being queer or LGBT, then when you start to feel that way, you're just like, oh, well, it's wrong. Like
something's wrong with me.
Something's wrong. And then I need to figure out the exact reason why I'm feeling this way. And then you grasp onto whatever answer comes up that might relate possibly to what you're going through. What did you guys think about the part where she finally had somebody who wanted to go out with her and really liked her, and then she was like, oh, this makes me so happy, and then in the next chapter she's like, why don't I feel anything? I finally have somebody who wants to be with me.
So real, right? To be like desperate to have a relationship with somebody who like knows you and like you have like a connection and you can be honest with them, and then the sparks just aren't there. Like she waited all this time and finally got to the point where she was like, maybe this situation, maybe like a sexual situation would be different with somebody if I loved them. Or if I like had a connection with them, right? Like maybe that's what I'm really missing. And then to have the opportunity to like really get to know somebody and go out with them and be like, oh, I don't like them as much as they like me. Like you could tell she was so frustrated. Like, no.
Yes.
But also her acknowledging that like she was still totally down to go to a hotel with this girl.
Yes.
My motivations are a little tainted here. I don't actually like this girl.
And I guess, I mean, yeah, I definitely, this was another part too, where I was just like, oh man, I remember that, like having that sort of thing too. And it's just, it's something that's not talked about, like in sexuality, where it's just like, there are things you're definitely attracted to. And sex doesn't need to be like, oh, I need to get my vag and dick on or whatever. Like, there's like other things to it that make it like a good experience.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, oh,
it's not
seeing this it was just like, I guess it's just so frustrating because it's things that I've experienced and I'm just like, oh, I don't want you to go through with this because it's so frustrating to like learn about it on your own.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, oh, there's just so many little parts in like having sex that aren't talked about enough, where it's just like, you don't need to like sure, like getting off is like awesome, but there are other things like emotionally that are just as good.
Yeah. Like there's a connection that makes things better. Like if that's the like what you search for and that's what makes it better, then that like makes total sense. It's not just about, like you said, not just about getting off. It's like there's sometimes connections like are really important for you too.
But again, like we've watched this person go from barely acknowledging that she would even want to have sex with a girl to going on a date with somebody and being like, right, I know that we don't have a connection, but like maybe I could get some.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like as much as you watch that situation, you're like, don't do it.
Yeah.
Like you still see a lot of growth there, like from a scenario where she felt like maybe she was just destined to never have sex with anyone and that she wasn't maybe even allowed to like feel those feelings and be okay with those feelings, and that she wasn't ever going to really grow. Like it was really nice to see her move out and, you know, start dealing with a lot of those feelings and give the book to her parents so her parents know now, and go on a date with somebody. And like, that's what dating is. Like sometimes it just doesn't work out, you know? But I think that you feel a lot of optimism for her.
Yeah.
You know, like you've done so much growing in like a short period of time. You will continue to grow. That's what life is, you know? So
yeah, the fact that she, like you said, is able to like she is so much further in how she has dealt with her anxiety and she is dealing with it, that she can be like, okay, I could have sex with this girl, instead of just being like, oh my god, sex, what do I do? Sex, I don't understand, I can't touch her, what am I supposed to have like the fact that she is able to just think, okay, maybe I just want to have this like sexual experience too. Like you said, it's just like a subtle growth that you don't think about until you look back and you're like, oh yeah, I remember your first time. That sounds really weird.
I was there for it. You had a coffee with a lovely young lady and she gave you a bath, and then she tried to get you to touch her a little bit and you were terrified, and that was basically all that happened.
You could not move.
I know. I love how often she mentions boobs.
Yeah.
Like in I think every sexual situation that she had, she's like, I really want to touch her boobs, but I'm scared.
Yes.
I was like, oh, sweetheart.
Like, wait, what do I do? What can I do? What am I supposed to do?
I know.
Which is funny because in hindsight, it's like, you have boobs. Like, if you don't know what to do with the other girl's boobs, play with your own boobs.
Oh, God.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
This conversation is making me want to reread it. As like emotionally taxing as it is, I kind of want to just read the whole thing over again.
There's apparently a second volume for Solo Exchange, which I didn't know.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I
So
couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
I just read everything I could find.
They're on Amazon. I believe the second one is on there too. Yeah. My solo exchange diary number 2. Oh, interesting. It's a very interesting cover image. So mix here. I'll read the
Yeah, read the description for us. What's it all about? Hit us.
Living on her own is harder than Nagata Kabi expected. Building relationships is difficult too, but with a new friendship to cultivate and a new perspective on her family, she's doing her best to open up and become a warm, compassionate person. That sparks another thing with the friendship. Like, she's making, like, friends. Like, she reached out to friends in high school or college, whichever one it was, that she hadn't talked to. And she was so proud of herself. And it's like, yes, that may seem so minor to people who don't have, like, as much anxiety. But just taking that little step of reaching out. Because after it's been built up for so long, you're just, like, hitting the call button or the text button is just, like, feels like you're trying to climb a mountain, even though it's such a little stepping stool. It's like, that's a huge, huge mountain you're trying to conquer. And the instant you send that message, it's like, it's not in your hands anymore. Like, you aren't the one who is controlling the situation. It's up to the other person about what they decide to do and decide your fate in a way. And so the fact that she reached out, I was like, yes, I'm so proud of you.
And got invited to a wedding. Yes. I was like, oh, she's going to go to her friend's wedding. Like, we waited so long to see a friend of hers.
Yes.
We didn't sit, like she really did establish from the get-go, like, I don't really have any friends. And to, like, hit this point where it was, I had friends in middle school and I had friends in high school, and then I was thrown out into the real world and I didn't have a situation that facilitated me seeing people all the time anymore. And it just got harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. And, like, how real that is, you know? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was so cute to have her be like, I'm getting food with a friend. I was like, I'm so proud of you.
So sweet.
Also, yeah, so volume 2 was the pregnant friend. You guys didn't get to that?
Wait, you did?
I guess not.
Oh
no, where I read it only had one. Yeah, volume. It only had one volume.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
Moeka read all of it.
I assumed I was so invested in it, and I thought when we said we were reading all of it, that's why I was just like, oh, okay, I'll keep reading then.
Oh, oops.
No, I read everything that there was.
Oh, okay.
But, or at least where I was reading it. Yeah. But
I'll have to read the rest of it.
It's so like good because. Yeah, because it talks more about her friends, essentially.
Oh.
And I don't know if you guys you yourselves wants to be spoiled on that since
I want to read it.
Yeah, I want to read it. Yeah.
Okay, so we lied, chat. We lied.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There's a whole section of this that 2 of us did not read. By Accidente.
Should we... Oh, sorry, Moeka. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, it goes further into like more of the friends and some of her like therapy, which is good. It's good progress.
Yeah. Oh, it's good to know.
Oh, I can't wait for you guys to read it. It's so good.
I had no idea. Yeah, we'll have to check that out. Should we talk about art super fast? There's not a whole lot to say about it, but before we do final thoughts and ratings. We could touch on it.
Sure. I think they're super cute.
I agree. I think it really helps the more serious tones without taking it away. Like, I never felt that the art was like inappropriate for what she was talking about, and inappropriate in the way where it's like, man, this totally detracts from what you're saying. It's just like another bizarre talent that the mangaka has where you're like, how do you have this art that's so cute and it's going through like so many dramatic experiences without taking away the serious tone that you're giving through the text?
Yeah.
It's very talented.
Yeah, I liked that it was simple.
Same.
It was a simple that there's some color here and there. Overall, I like the most important part about the manga really is her experience, and so not having super busy artwork with it also helped a lot to like just get really invested, because in your mind it's like, okay, I'm not having to like look in every corner for little like backstory in the area that she's in. I don't know how better to explain it.
No, I think that's true. It's kind of like I don't know. I follow a lot of artists, so maybe I run into this more often. But it's kind of like when artists sometimes will go on Twitter and be like, "Hey, I made a little like 4-panel comic about X, Y, or Z," and it feels really personal, but it's very simple, and it's it's just like an easy, nice read. It feels like volumes of that.
Yeah.
Of an artist just like kind of brain dumping. And yeah, I think the simple style lends to that for sure.
Cool. Should we wrap up and do final thoughts and ratings?
Yeah.
Yes.
My heart, my kokoro.
Yes.
I am drawn to like a 10 for this. Just because it's really hard for me to think of a critique that would drop it down. And I absolutely loved everything that I read, just the way that she describes mental illness and figuring out what her sexuality is and her relationships and what it means to be a public figure, putting the entirety of her life out there. I think it's just really beautiful, and it's really well written. Like her voice and tone is amazingly figured out and entertaining, and it's such a fast read. There's no fluff in there that isn't important, and I just think it was really impressive, and that she, as a writer and as an artist and as a creator, is incredibly talented and did what she sought out to do and did it really, really well. So I think for me personally, it's a 10, and that goes to like the talent of the mangaka and the story itself, and then also how I connected with it on a personal level too. So I'm giving it a 10.
Yeah, I planned to give it a 10 as well. I just think it's just so real, and it's so accessible. And I think that there's a reason that that I've seen a decent number of reviews be like, I wish that this was in school libraries. Like, I understand why it wouldn't be in a school library because of the covers, but like the way that it talks about her and her experience, I think is so relatable to a lot of people. Maybe not all of it, even some of it being relatable. It's done in a way where she tries so hard to explain how her mind works, and it really does make you think about how your own mind works. And I loved all of it. And obviously, apparently, Aaron and I missed out on an entire volume, and we still think it's a 10. So, so we're both 100% gonna read the other volume. But yeah, I adored it. I don't think that there's really anything else to say.
Yeah, from me, it's definitely a 10 out of 10. I just think it was really relatable. I think even if you're not a lesbian, there are things that you probably will relate with her, and so maybe it'll get you thinking. And so yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. I definitely enjoyed it. Good experience. Made me think back on my own experiences.
Yeah.
Just what the best stories personally, I think, do. Cool.
Also, yeah. So sorry. No, so for anyone who was confused, the very first entry to this is My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness, and then the sequel is My Solo Exchange Diary, which is 2 volumes. There are 2 volumes for My Solo Exchange Diary.
Yes. That is a good point to bring up for sure. Cool. Do you guys have any other things to touch on?
I don't think so.
All right.
I saw. Sorry, no. Actually,
No, you're
I saw
fine.
someone's comment in chat that I thought maybe as a little extra bonus, it'd be nice. They said, "Do you think her life would have been different if she didn't document this in any way?"
Oh,
For sure.
interesting. Yeah, definitely.
100%, because she talks a lot, specifically in Solo Exchange Diary. She talks a lot about the feedback that she gets from her stories and how she reads them. And there's an entire section, right, where she was talking about how she kept getting positive feedback and then found herself like trying to go to weird corners of the internet to find people that disagreed or like people that talked about her and stuff like that. And I was like, I understand that.
Yeah.
I get that. I totally get that. That like morbid part of your brain that's like, but what about the people who hate me? What are they saying? Right? Like,
yes.
And the girl that she goes on her first like real date with found out about her because of the comics, right?
Yeah,
I
she
think.
was a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, her life would definitely be different if she wasn't making this. She never would have left the book for her parents. Maybe she never would have even told her parents. And I do think that whether you publish it anywhere or not, like people get a lot out of keeping a journal or a diary because it's just you work through so much of what's going on in your head by writing it down.
Yes.
I think just keeping the diary in general, like making these comics, even if they were just for her, probably helped her think through a lot of stuff.
Yeah, or it's like maybe in the moment it doesn't feel like it does anything for you, but for me, I feel like keeping a journal of some sort, I always on occasion I'll look back in past entries and kind of compare like, oh, the me from then was feeling this way. Am I still feeling this way? Or like if I am feeling this way, the way I view it now, is it different? And so it's really it's nice feedback to look back on, because then you can be like, okay, I do feel the same, but I don't view it quite the same as I did back then. Why is that? And then working on either changing it so that it improves your life so you're not stuck in that situation, essentially.
There's been sorry, just that where like if I part of like a healing thing with like bipolar, there's times where like I just write down whatever like racing thoughts that are going on when I'm manic, and then it just feels like when I go back and read it, I'm like, holy shit, like what? That's what I was thinking. And then I'm able to look at it and work through maybe why that's why I was feeling. Maybe like this little thing happened, or like I was missed medication or something, and like just go through and reread it and also understand that that was okay, that what I was feeling was okay. And so it grants a little bit more grace, like as you're gonna go through into the next one, and accept that that was like, so it's definitely a part of healing when you're doing that. And even if you don't like have a mental illness, like you guys are saying, it's just you learn so much about yourself when you get it down on paper and outside of your own head, and you're able to read through it.
Yeah,
it's definitely, I think like her writing it was a big part of her healing process for sure. Cool. If you guys don't have anything else to touch on, we're gonna move on. Well, if you guys haven't checked it out to the end of the discussion, 10 out of 10, we definitely recommend that you guys go ahead and check this out. We all loved it. So now that wraps up our discussion. I'm going to go ahead and read the description for the manga that we're reading next week. Hold on. Let me find a different one. Fuck this one.
Is it too long?
Is it the My Anime List one?
Yes, they're all so annoying.
My Anime List is the worst.
Give me a wiki. Oh, it would help if I took my anime list out of the search description. Where are you at? Okay, this will work. To give you guys a hint before we go in, next week is going to be March. And so we are going to be starting our March Madness Manga Sports Month, which
Hell
is
yeah.
every year. Sports. We read the entirety of March. We read only sports manga. So let me go ahead and read this one, and then you guys in chat get to guess what it is. Blank, a delinquent, outcast, and leader of a gang who is rejected 50 times encounters Blank, who recognizes Blank's athleticism and introduces him to Blank. Blank was reluctant to join the team at first as he had no previous Blank, but despite his immaturity and hot temper, he proves to be the natural athlete and with potential, initially joining the team in order to impress Blank, but later coming to love the Blank and working his best to help the team win the nationals. What sports manga
What
does
is
that
it?
sound like? Slam dunk or ping pong? It's slam dunk. Dodge the
Slam
sand, you
dunk.
got it. Slam dunk. I'm so excited for this.
Me too. It feels like it's been forever since we've read Slam Dunk.
I don't think we've ever read it.
What? Didn't we read it?
What?
Didn't we? Or did we
We've
try to read it
done-
once and we canceled it?
We have only
No?
done real. We've done
The
real.
hell?
Yeah. We might have tried
Oh,
to
maybe
do
I just
it.
maybe I just read it on my own and I
That's possible.
assumed it was for MangaPod in my in my mind.
Only time you're allowed to read manga is during MangaPod. Otherwise, you're cheating.
Yeah. Don't read manga unless it's for MangaPod. We'll know.
So we are going to be reading Slam Dunk next week. We're going to read volumes 1 through 3, chapters 1 through 26. Holla. Let's go around and, well, let me shout out our subreddit again. Our subreddit, reddit.com/r/mangapod. We have the schedule there as well as a recommendation thread, whether if there's a manga that you would like us to check out or a manhwa or a webcomic, go ahead and post that there. And we also have our schedule. Just kidding. I already said that. You now double know that our schedule is there. We also have a recommendation thread for Spotify streaming episodes if there's one from the past that you would like us to make sure to upload there. Spotify is MangaPod. Also on iTunes is MangaPod. Then let's go around.
We're the number one manga podcast. Bam.
Yeah.
Hang on. Let me practice dabbing.
Yeah.
Did I
Bam.
do it?
You did. Bam.
I dabbed.
Slam.
I believe it. Dunk.
Oh my god! Yes.
I'm so happy that you clued into that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna look really dumb if neither of them do it.
Say dunk.
Cool. Let's go around and shout out our stuff. I'm Erin, a Happily Erin. I have a YouTube channel, and it's all anime, manga, and mental health awareness. Basically, just the MangaPod channel as of now. I'm working on a book. I'm currently doing my 3rd rewrite on it. I just hit 69,000 words out of 75 of a goal.
Nice.
I post updates for that on Twitter and Instagram. I also talk about anime boys and Thai dramas on Twitter if you would like to come and check me out on there. I love talking about all fun stuff. Happily Erin, all across everything. That's me.
I'm Dodger. You can find me at DexBonus on everything. I stream almost every day. And I have Twitter, Instagram. I am on YouTube, but I haven't made a YouTube video in forever, so don't worry about that. Just wink. But there's lots of really great games that just came out, so I'm really excited. We've got lots of stuff that we're going to play. I think that we're probably going to do another little extra stream tonight. So if you want to tune into that, that would be amazing. Otherwise, yeah, I just talk about anime and how cool my kid is and play games, and that's it. That's my whole skis. Also, did we already shout out Lou?
No. I was gonna wait.
No, not yet. He's next.
Yeah, Lou is our lovely 4th pillar, and he's taken some personal time right now, but he is a delight and a treasure. You can find him at Lou Talks Anime. Is he Lou Talks Anime on Twitter still?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you can find him at Lou Talks Anime. He streams sometimes. He tweets a lot, and he's a just generally lovely person. So we hope to have him back soon. But in the meantime, we're just gonna give him lots of snugs from afar.
Yeah. I am Mega Moeka on just about every social platform. I'm like a Swiss Army knife of online stuff, I think is how I describe myself in a recent post. I do social media for myself, MangaPod, I cosplay, I stream, I do a bunch of stuff, voice acting, you name it. I've probably dabbled in it. If you like watching content, follow me on @MegaMoika on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all the good stuff. If not, check out our MangaPod site. It has all our links there as well.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Did you just wink?
So if you didn't want to hear me say it, you can go read it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm not.
We're all cool. Come watch us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When will they see us again, buds?
We will be back next Sunday doing our new time. We are working out our time. We're going to be doing Sunday mornings at 7:30 a.m. Pacific time. What time is that in England?
It is 3:30.
Cool.
3:30 p.m. in England.
Awesome. So that is going to be our new schedule as of right now. I think it's working out pretty good. It's pretty exciting. We want to go ahead and follow our Twitter. It's also MangaPod. I forgot to shout that out earlier. So yeah, we will be here same time. Yes, same time. Same place next week, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time, reading Slam Dunk volumes 1 through 3, chapters 1 through 26. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Dunk.
So long.
Slam.
Slam.
Dunk.
Slam.
Dunk. Moika, you better be dabbing.
She is. I know it.
Yeah, I'm dabbing. Left,
Sure,
right, left, right.
Left, right, up, down. Cool.
Up.
So slam.
Dab.
Bye.
Dab. Dab.
Bye.